In this podcast, we will be discussing the roles of women in different societies and cultures. We will be looking at 3 different societies that all have different roles for women. The differences between these societies reflect their own personal cultural beliefs and their history. These cultural values and beliefs tend to stay unchanged throughout time because they are passed down through the generations. The first group that we will be looking at will be the American society. In the early periods of American history, the role of women was to stay at home and take care of the children in their house. Women were not seen in the workforce, the military, or even in schools. The role of women began to change in America around World War II, when women gained positions in factories and other professions that were seen as only for males before because the need for men in the military was so great. This was one of the major turning points for the dramatic change for the role of women in American societies. Throughout many protests and movements, women were able to gain equality and respect that was long overdue, and now their role in our society today is dramatically different from what it was years ago. Women in our society today are given the same opportunities as men for the most part, and there is women representation in all fields of work. An example of a field of work that has strong representation of women today, as explained by Amy J. Martin, would be the CIA. Nearly half of the entire staff of the CIA is women, which is triple that of what it was just 26 years ago. Women are also finding themselves in the top of the agency and are now filling more positions than males in this line of work. The next group that we will be looking at has a very different culture from America, which means the role of women in this group will be very different compared to what we see in America today. The Wadobe are a nomadic group located in different areas around Africa. In this group, the role of women is very different from other cultures, and women have less responsibilities than the men. The role of women in this society is to care for the elders and provide children. Women are to tend to the needs of their elders and get them everything that they ask for, which, in a way, is their form of school since they have no formal education. Tending to their elders teaches them respect and how to take care of their family. Along with tending to their elders, women must retrieve and cook the food for their family and for others during their ceremonies. The second part of their role, which is a very important one for the men in the group, is to provide children, especially sons, to be able to grow their family and have more hands to take care of the work that needs to be done. In this society, women can be stolen by another man and forced out of her current marriage. In a way, this makes women property, and the men in this group can have strict roles for their wives. On the other side, if a woman found a man she thought was attractive, she would be able to run away and start a new family with that man if he was on a different lineage. This gives the women a little bit more freedom than we have seen previously in this culture. The role of women in a nomadic society like this is much different due to the difference in their culture and lifestyle. We have now looked at 2 very different groups with different lifestyles. America, which gives women more freedom and has more representation of women in the workforce, and Wadobe, where women have less freedom and have many less responsibilities. The next group we will be looking at is in between these groups depending on which area they are in. The role of women in Arabic culture can change depending on where they are located, but for the most part, the rules are the same for the majority of their culture. Arab states have some of the highest female literacy in the world, and while there are many women in the workforce, there are limitations to their work. Many of the jobs that Arabic women have are very gendered, such as education and nursing, and this is due to the fact that in their culture, men are seen as the ones who do the tough and heavy labor work, and women only account for about 20% of the population in the labor industry. There are also women that do not work at all because their husbands forbid them from working outside of their house, and they are not able to accept for a job without their husband's permission. In most areas of this society, women are able to hold important political positions and do have a strong voice within the government, but there are still areas that do not allow women to vote. As for schooling, all young girls attend school, but as for college, there is more men attending college than there is women in their society. In some areas, women are not attending college because they have already found a husband and their husband will not allow them to work outside of home, so there would be no reason for them to go to college. The last part, that is one of the most strict parts, is that women are not able to drive. They have to ride with their husbands or family to go places. The range of rules for women in Arab states ranges from having a good amount of freedom and responsibility to being completely controlled and having a majority of their responsibilities be at home. So as we have discussed throughout this podcast, women play many different roles depending on their culture and their society. We have looked at 3 very different cultures and broken down the role of women for each. Now that we have looked at the roles for women in 3 very different societies, I decided to ask 3 women I know from different generations but the same society about their opinion on what roles women should have. The first person I asked was my grandmother. Her answer for what roles women should have was that she believed women should be able to have a job outside of the home, but must still make time to be able to care for her children and the home. The second person I asked was my mother. Her answer was that women should have a job and that the care of the children should be shared, but all of the housework and cleaning should be done by women. Lastly, I asked my sister what her thoughts were, and she said that women should be able to have the life that they want, whether it be staying at home or having a job, and all of the housework should be shared between the couple. So as we have seen, the idea of roles for women can vary depending on the beliefs of the person by themselves. To end this podcast, I would like to leave you with a question. What roles do you think women should have in our society, and do they differ from what they are?